things that I've discovered over the years is I am not that great at decision making. And maybe you are. Maybe you say, you know what, I'm good at that. And maybe you might say to me, as you get older, decisions come easier. You may tell me that, and I might be like, great, I need to be a little bit more older in my years to understand that, but maybe you have difficulty making decisions as well. Maybe you look at somebody and you think, man, they're really fulfilled in their life. Like they've got wisdom and they seem to know how to make good decisions, and maybe they've got great relationships and they're strong financially and they're generous and they're just fulfilled in life, and maybe if they're in ministry, they have great ministries, and you're like, man, I would love to have that. And these people love their life. And then you look at people who struggle relationally. Maybe they're just trying to hold their marriage together or keep their kids off drugs, or those who are struggling financially, they don't know how on earth they could ever be generous. They want to be, but they don't feel like they could be. And they just feel maybe there's something more in life. I don't know. And maybe we start to think, well, maybe there's something that's really different between them. But here's the thing. The difference is not in their intelligence. It's not in their talent. It's not even in their appearance, because we've seen smart people who are miserable, right? We've seen talented people who are broke. We've seen attractive people who can't hold a relationship. And so what do you think the difference really is between those types of people? And I think it all boils down to our decisions. It boils down to that because our decisions are incredibly important. In fact, I would say this, that the quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life. When you make your decisions, and your decisions will end up making you. And the problem is that most of us are not good decision makers, are we? And maybe you are, and you're an exception to that, and that's wonderful. We want to eat right, but then we decide that we eat more than what we should. I'm guilty of that. We want to be wise with our money, and then we buy things that we can't afford. We want to be wise with our words, but then we say things that we regret, and we want to do the right thing, but our decisions come and we do the wrong thing. I've been in that category as well. We want to love the people around us, but sometimes our decisions end up hurting the people we love most. We want to be good decision makers, but the problem is most of us, and maybe I'm the only one in that category today, do not make good decisions. In fact, I was younger, when I was really young, I don't remember exactly the age, that I found out I do not make good decisions. For some reason, I cannot remember why. Growing up, we had my parents and my grandparents, an aunt and uncle, great aunt and uncle, all on the same kind of land. We had, I think, 100 acres of farmland, and we were living on that. And for some reason, between my house, my parents' house, and my grandparents' house, there was an open sewer, kind of drainage or something. And so what do you do when you've got a big kind of, ditch going? What do you do as a kid? You jump it. And that's what I did. One summer, I was like, ooh, I'm probably, Superman or something, that I could just jump across this ditch. Now, things were going well, but the last time that I did it, guess what I did? I jumped too early. And guess where I landed? Right dab smack in the middle of the sewer. I didn't smell good for a little while. And that's when I realized that I'm not a good decision maker. Another time, there's a culvert and there's a big rock by it, and I probably watched the Hulk or something and thought that I was strong, and I leaned over and I'm trying to rip this rock out, and guess what happened? I fell, hit my nose on the culvert, gave myself a bloody nose. I'm not the wisest sometimes. My kids know of times that I will not share, of things that I have done that I thought were wise, and I ended up being, stuck on something or getting hurt or whatever. But have you ever done something that you regret, made a decision that you regret doing? You've done something like that? I think we've all done that. Why is it that we struggle to make good decisions? Why do we struggle to do the right thing at times? That's just kind of a rhetorical question. But I want to give you just some things today, and we're going to hopefully unpack these over the next few weeks. Why do we struggle to make good decisions? And I see at least 3 reasons. One is we're overwhelmed with choices. We're overwhelmed with choices. How many times do you go to do something, eat at a restaurant, and they give you the menu, and do you just have 2 things that you can pick from? No. You've got all these types of things. You can have these for starters. You can have these for the main course. You can have this for dessert. And it's like, what do you do? And I spend probably 10 minutes looking at it, and I always come back to the same thing that I always order because I know it. You know, research has said that we have about 35,000 decisions a day. From the moment you wake up, what do I eat? What do I wear? What do I look at? Do I scroll, tap, scroll past, comment? Do I look at this? Do I look at that? How do I drive to work? What do I say to people at work? All day long, we have decisions that are bombarding us that we have to make all day long. And what happens is because we make so many decisions, so many choices, our decision-making muscle literally becomes fatigued. And maybe I'm the only one that has this problem. In fact, cognitive scientists have termed the phrase decision fatigue. And decision fatigue, essentially what happens is as the volume of decisions increase, the quality of decisions decrease. Do you get that? As the volume of decisions increase, the more decisions that you are having to make, the quality of those decisions will decrease. Because we're making decisions day after day, moment after moment. We have to do them. When you're just yourself, you just worry about that. When you get married, you got now another person you're making decisions with, and sometimes 4 as you're planning things together. Then you have kids, and depending on how many kids you have, you've got decisions that you're making for each and every one of them, and it starts to get a lot. If you were, have to start taking care of elderly parents, you've got decisions. And it just keeps growing and growing how many people that we are making decisions for or decisions about. And then we get tired. And maybe, you make all these decisions and you come home from work and you decide to binge eat at night. And it's because you get tired of making good decisions. Or you make wise financial choices and you're saving, you're paying off debt, and you're doing the right things, and then you make a stupid purchase out of nowhere because of decision fatigue. I've done those things. You make decisions like, why did I buy that? That's not going to go good with anything. That's just going to sit in a heap on a shelf somewhere and collect dust. Did anybody have any of the dust collecting, maybe bad decisions that you've made? I've got some of those. We try to make good decisions, but because of the volume, the quality starts to get decreased, and especially for us that are Christians, we don't want to miss God's will. And so a lot of times we analyze something and we say, well, I'm not sure that's the perfect school, or I'm not sure that's the perfect job, or I'm not sure that this is what I'm supposed to do. And since we aren't sure, we just don't make any decision at all. We just say, nope, I'm not going to do it. And this is a real challenge because we have to understand that indecision is actually a decision. Indecision is the enemy of progress. And so why do we struggle to make good decisions? Well, we're overwhelmed with all the choices. We're afraid of making the wrong choice. And the one that I really want to drill down today is this: we let emotions overrule logic. We let emotions overrule logic. This is where so many of us struggle, and our decision-making will break down. We let emotions overrule logic, which is really, really interesting because on some decisions we spend so much time analyzing that decision. Maybe you do this, you spend so much on it. Do I do this? Do I binge watch one? Do I watch one show of this series, or do I watch the whole thing? We look at everything. We overanalyze a lot of decisions that don't really matter, and then we make maybe impulse decisions on the things that do matter. We'll say, do I binge watch this series, or do I, put money aside for my retirement? We will spend a lot of time on one and not really do something that really matters. Or your kid upsets you, and logic says be patient, but emotion says Yell as loud as you can, right? Maybe that only happens in our house. I'm just kidding. Or you have some unexpected temptation and your logic says, that's dangerous, beep, 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 that's dangerous, don't go near that. And then we just say, you know what, let's party, okay? I like the looks of that. And so we go and do something because we're not making a good decision. And so often it's the emotional decisions that end up hurting us, hurting others. And that's why, we need to let people know, whatever you do, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Don't make decisions that are going to impact you for years to come based on the emotion that you feel in the moment. Why do your decisions matter so much? Because the quality of our decisions determines the quality of our lives. Think about it for a moment. You may say, when I was younger, I think I was with friends and they're like, hey, try smoking. And so I tried smoking. And I got teased because as soon as I would inhale, I'd blow it right back out. Well, I was like, oh, this is dumb. So I never did that again. But if I had have done that dumb decision, as later on in life, I could have gotten, lung cancer. I could have one of my grandfathers died of emphysema. It was terrible to hear the trying to breathe and get breath in. It was a horrible sound. I couldn't end up like that. So I'm glad that I didn't have a decision back then that I continued with all of that I would later on in life have really bad decisions. There's probably people who are, they say, hey, I'm with this person. I want to get their name tattooed all across my body. And then years later, you break up, you're not with them anymore, and now you've got their name all over you. I don't know, I'm just saying some things. So maybe some decisions that maybe weren't so wise can affect later on. I'm just throwing stuff out here, and you can probably know other decisions that maybe, One of the best spiritual tools that we can do is to decide now what you want to do later. And that's the power of pre-deciding what you're going to do. Power of pre-deciding, power of choosing ahead of time what we're going to do in that moment. If you look at Proverbs 16:3, it says, whatever you do, the scripture says, commit it to the Lord. Commit it to the Lord, whatever you do. Some people get annoyed with that. They say, commit it to the Lord. Well, no, I'm just going to do it. No, seriously, commit it to the Lord. The Bible actually talks about, don't say, hey, next year I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to do that. No, if the Lord, that's in His will that you're going to do it, then we'll do it. We shouldn't say, I'm going to do this, because we can't make anything happen on our own. God can help us. When we were going to go on our vacation to Europe, it was, hey, we're going. We had to bring God into this, because if it wasn't for Him, we would not have gotten the tickets to be able to go. And the tickets to go at a price that we could actually afford, not go into debt to try to be able to go. No, we had to give it and commit it to the Lord, and God took that and blessed it. We need to commit our plans to the Lord. Commit everything to the Lord, whatever you do. So, if you're dating somebody, commit that to the Lord. If you're married, commit your marriage. If you're parenting, commit your parenting and your children to the Lord. If you're making financial decisions, commit that to the Lord. If you're making professional decisions, relational, friendships, what to wear, what to eat, every decision, commit it to the Lord. And you might say, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get anywhere because I'm just going to be committing everything to the Lord. Wouldn't it be better to commit all that to the Lord than make dumb decisions and things you're going to regret? To say, oh, why didn't I just take that to the Lord? Why not do it to say, God, today I give all my decisions to you. And just lay them at His feet and allow Him to work in those. And He will establish your plans. I love Scripture. When you seek Him first and His kingdom, His righteousness, Jesus said, then everything else will be added to you. So when we commit to the Lord, there's no better time than to do it at the beginning of the day, sometimes even at the beginning of a brand new year. Commit all your decisions that you have to make for that next year. Commit those to the Lord and seek the Lord for our decisions, and He will give us plans, and we can pre-decide what we're going to do. And with God's help, we're going to determine a course of action before the moment of decision. Whenever faced with this scenario, whatever it would be, should I look? Should I buy it? Should I reach out to this person? Should I respond? Should I yell? Whenever I'm faced with this scenario, whatever it may be, I have pre-decided to take this action, and we decide ahead of time with God's help, by the truth of His Word, what we'll do in any given situation. Right? So later on, if you have a problem with impulse purchases and you're saying, well, it must be God's will, it's 10% off. We're going to say, whenever this happens, I'm tempted to make an impulse purchase, but we say, I've already pre-decided, I wait 3 days before I buy something. Maybe that's something for you. Maybe you have a problem in getting mad at somebody when they talk to you. I have a pastor friend, who gives his practice that if somebody came and kind of blew up at him and unleashed on him, he would wait 3 days before he would respond to that person. So he had a chance to cool down, he had a chance to see if there's anything true in what they were saying, and then he would go and talk to them. Man, I would love to do that better in my own life. You back me in a corner and you start unleashing on me, I'm going to get heated and I'm probably going to lash out back at you. And I don't want to be that person. So learning to do these things, pre-deciding, I'm going to wait 3 days. Maybe if you're someone who's like, I want to buy and buy and buy, there's a good sale, I could spend $500 so I can save $10. Maybe we need to wait 3 days and just be like, hey, let's just see, is this what God wants me to do? When you're always worried about something, anything could go wrong and you could just lose your faith in God and just start worrying, we're going to pre-decide that instead of doing something that we shouldn't be doing, that we're just going to take my burdens and I'm going to cast them at the Lord's feet. Someone cuts you off in traffic, we're going to pre-decide that instead of yelling at them and telling them to go to Halifax, right, we're going to say, or we want to do something else, that we're going to say, what, I'm going to pray for that person because they cut me off, they must be in a hurry, or whatever it may be. Maybe we'll pray for them. And we're going to pre-decide to do these things. And it can be freeing. And I'm learning this as well. I'm not saying I've got it all figured out. I'm learning this as well. In Genesis chapter 22, when God told Abraham, I want you to sacrifice your son Isaac, and Abraham's looking on thinking that's ridiculous. Nobody would do that. That makes no sense at all. But in the past, Abraham had decided about the future, that he says, my God is always trustworthy, and so whatever He asks me to do, I have pre-decided, and I will obey Him, and I will honor Him. Same thing with Ruth. You can read this in Ruth chapter 1, made a very strong commitment to Naomi and decided ahead of time that whatever happens in the future, no matter where you go, I'm going. Your people will be my people and your God will be my God. Daniel, he and his friends were taken essentially hostage to a foreign land. They're brainwashed, and you have to think the way that we think and be educated in the way that we're educated and eat the food that we're going to eat. That would have been dishonoring to God. And so in Daniel chapter 1, in chapter 8, the scripture says Daniel resolved. He could say it this way. He had already decided what was going to happen. Not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. He didn't wait until he got in the dining room to make the decision. He predetermined, because of my faithfulness to God, I won't be weak in a future moment. I've already pre-decided to honor God. My question to you today is, what do you want to be characterized by? What do you want to be characterized? When people describe you, what do you want them to say about you? Now, let's not think this is morbid in any way, but if you passed away and I came and I'm meeting with your family and they want me to say things about you, how do you want to be characterized? What do you want people to say about you when they stand up to give a eulogy? What do you want your reputation to be? Do you want to be known as somebody? I'm not saying, after you've passed away either. While you're still living, while you're here, what do you want your reputation to be in your family, in your work, in your neighborhood? What do you want, even despite your reputation, what do you want What do you want you to know, people to know that deep down inside of you, what matters above anything else? What do you want it to be? You might value faithfulness. You might value integrity. You might value being faithful to God and faithful to my friends and faithful to my spouse. Whatever it is, what is it that you want to be known for? You might say, I value generosity, that I want to be, God so loved the world that He gave, so I want to do that. I want to be a giver. Values are clear. Your decisions are easier. Whenever I'm faced with a situation because of God's truth, because of what I value, I have pre-decided to take this particular action. Hope that's encouraging to you today, that when we have a decision to make, maybe we've already pre-decided to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. So that when we get into situations, we're not going to make dumb decisions. Now, I'm going to share out of my own weakness. This week, Melissa and the girls are away. Josiah and I are home. We're batching it. And the dog. All right, we're home. And it's like, and I'm not trying to be whatever. There's just times I love my potato chips. I love pop. I love, if I want to eat potatoes, I want to have a meal. I grew up, you had a meal. You didn't walk away hungry. So it's like, I want to have more. And Josiah said, as your dietitian, you cannot do this. And so it's kind of pre-decided that no, don't make a dumb decision. Well, I make dumb decisions anyway. You get into snacky snacks. And you're like eating when you shouldn't be eating, and you're snacking because you're bored and whatever. And and you get on the scale, and you notice the scale goes up a little bit. And it's like, oh man, that was a dumb decision. I don't want those. I want to be able to say, I'm making a wise decision, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to be healthier, so I can be around for my family and around for everybody for a long time. So maybe pre-deciding how you're going to respond, how you're going to act, what you're going to do if you come across these things, it can make life easier, because we do not make good decisions all the time. We don't. We're human. I pray for wisdom all the time, and sometimes I wonder if, I don't have my TV antenna right, that I'm not getting the full picture. I don't seem to get a lot of wisdom at times, but God can give wisdom to other people who can share that with me and help me. So I just want to encourage you with that today. Let me pray for you.